Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. This is the vault, episode 3. This is Trustee Training's Spiritual Sundays with Dr. Bay. We definitely appreciate, being able to have this conversation with a very special individual. We would like to think that Dr. Bay is equivalent to a Booker T. And we could say he is because he has some very special powers. And this is one of the most important things. So we definitely appreciate Dr. Bay for coming on the line today. We definitely have a special guest, Carrie. Always appreciate Carrie for coming through. And so this is a very important moment because it is worthy of Carrie adding to this conversation with Dr. Bay, knowing what she knows so far and just sharing her experience of Dr. Bay as well in this conversation. So thank you both for being on the line today. We definitely just kind of gonna hop straight into it. We know you guys are doing well. We definitely greet the listening audience well and appreciate you for listening live and listening to replay. So we really want to start out the conversation asking you definitely how you're doing and what do you feel is the energy of the day, Dr. Bay.
Well, the energy varies from individual to individual, but I know that today is a special day every day in every way for everybody if they understand who they are and what they have and how to use it. So I'm really saying that you really need to know things like why you're here on earth and what pathway you should have or follow to accomplish it, including what year it is for you and what you are to accomplish this year, what month it is for you, what you are to do this month, and what week it is for you and what you should do this week. But most of all, what day it is for you and what you are divinely designed to do this particular day.
Okay, so here's an easy question out the gate from the naysayer. Is it pre-written already that the script's already written? Is the script already written and who wrote the script?
I'm not clear.
So
What
if
do
the
you mean?
days are already planned out numerically, then who wrote that plan?
I'm not sure what you mean by that, but
Well, you say that there's a
um,
plan already in front of you, correct?
planned already in front of you.
A system. The
Based
system, there's
on
a system
uh,
before we get here.
there is a system. Everything and anything that works in the universe is in a system. You're in a system. You have a heart that does one thing, a kidney that does another thing, a bladder that does another thing, and on it goes. A car is in a system. You have a starter that does one thing, wheels that do another thing, transmission that do another. Everything that works is in a system. Now, various systems are, as we are, different and divinely designed to do different things. And so the system has always existed as everything in the universe. There's nothing ever been created from nothing. Everything has always existed. Now, it has been re-systematized, and that's a part of understanding that there are laws, and there are 22 master spiritual laws, and the 22nd law is the law of a greater good. In other words, the purpose for everything is to do a greater good. And I know that most people, or many people, use it to create a greater bad, or worse or worse.
But we know that that's not the case. We know that ultimately the righteousness wins out.
Ultimately, what happens?
The righteous side wins out.
I wish that was always true, but if the righteous side always wins out, how do we end up in the mess we're in?
Well, there's ebbs and flows in the universe, in the system, like you say. Okay, well, good day, Carrie. I'd like to share your experience with Dr. Bay so far, since you've been in contact with such an incredible man.
Good day, all. Yeah, it's been great just learning from Dr. Bay and understanding the laws within self and the laws within the universe. And just gives, for lack of better words, greater insight to the versatility of me and accepting the different ebbs and flows, the different variations, and the different possibilities, and understanding like the power of choice that we have in all of it because it's all here, it's all already in existence. But our day to day actions and understandings of ourselves empower us more to be able to choose, per se, like the timeline or the effectiveness of us that we want to operate in. So I think that kind of touches a bit on when you said, um, a moment ago about, the greater good, winning, not winning, and whatnot. It's like it all exists, it's all there, it's all within our choice to choose. But I also feel like you, like in the end, greater good does, in a sense, always win as time plays out because it's all the same one, all flowing from the same one. It's possible that there are some lessons that we need to learn, some grit we need to establish within ourselves to be able to transact through those ebbs and flows. Like the training of a warrior, I suppose, in my eyes. If that makes sense.
Definitely. All right, Dr. Bay. You want to go history? Can we go history about the boat, or do we're not going there today?
The history about the what now?
The boat. You and the boat experience. Matter of fact,
Well, if
a
you
matter of fact,
want
hold on,
to,
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Excuse me. There's an experience where you had an experience with an animal and you hit it right with your shoulder.
well, I hit it with my arm, but what happened was this.
All right, thank you. Let's hear it.
My, my sister came into the pasture, and we had a cow, but she had on a red dress, and the bull hit it for her, and I saw it hit for her, and he was running, and so I ran, and I realized that I could hit this bull and maybe keep it from hitting her, and I did. I hit him right at his horn, and I knocked him off over one side of this little cliff that was over a spring, and I went backwards over another. Now, I knocked a knot on my shoulder that I knew about, but I did not know that I also cracked my spine at the same time. Now, I've always said it was 8. I was 8 years old when it happened, but I was talking to my sister, and she said, "No, you weren't but 6. I was 8." So, but anyway, that's what happened. But there is a reason for everything, and the reason for everything creates the cause and the effect that we have in life. But there are two aspects of it. There's a righteous and an unrighteous side to everything. It's just like I said once before that this minister said, "Oh, you're wrong about that." And I said, "How am I wrong?" He said, "There's no righteous or unrighteous side to love." I said, "There isn't?" I said, "Well, then tell me this. Why is most people messed up? Because of what they love or because of what they hate?" And he said, "Wow, I never thought of that." Yeah, there's an unrighteous side to love because most people love something they should See, we got to realize that our world is created by us with, and the cause and effect comes from our thoughts and subsequent action, because it is what we think and the subsequent action to what this thought did, whether you do anything about it, whether it's righteous or unrighteous, that creates the situations in the world that you're in. Because most people do not understand, we've been trained not to think but to recall or to believe. But actual knowledge is all demonstratable. If it's demonstratable, then you don't have to believe it. You can know it because you can demonstrate or show it.
Well, how's
And
it?
so we got to get where we truly understand ourselves and everybody and everything else. And that's a difficult process for most people because we've been programmed, as a friend of mine, Dr. Ernest Armstrong, used to say, we've been bamboozled into feeling and thinking a certain way that is causing us not to do what we need to do to benefit ourselves and others too, present and future generations.
Okay, well let's go into some trustee conversation here. Can you guys hear me well?
Sure.
Alrighty. Alright, Dr. Bay. Now maybe you're not foolish enough to tell us how the family estate is set up. But what can you share about estate planning and what age should a person start estate planning?
Well, that's a good question, and I like that question. Uh, I think that it should be started within the early ages of their life. Uh, your life is an estate, and the planning thereof is tied to your name at birth and your date that you were born, even the time and the era that it is in and the sensation that it is tied to. So there are a lot of things involved in that aspect of estate planning. But the estate planning that most people are talking about, that is dealing with assets, uh, should start early too. Because if you know what you're divinely designed to do, and you are planning the estate of your life to do this, that's when the planning should start. I know with my father, he spent quite a lot of time with me in aiding me in understanding the Dogon legacy of knowledge, all 92 of the degrees involved, and how each one of those degrees are affecting not just me, but the world that I'm living in and causing us in this world to act and feel a certain way. And as he said, the problem is that most people just don't know that they don't know. That there is a system and that the system is inoperative, and we need to get where we know, can systematize and utilize the system to benefit ourselves and everybody else, both present and future generations.
That's so important. And even the way you say that for present and future generations, that's what makes someone think, well, okay, he's not talking temporal, he's talking eternal. So we got out of you last episode that everything is spiritual. How do people deal with this whole money situation? And I think this is a great question for you too. Some we're in the era where people are dismissing money. And, you're an old timer, so you've heard people say, "Oh, the American dollar's going in the toilet." You've seen a lot of things change about the American dollar. What would you say about the current, system with the dollar? People not wanting to have faith in it, quote unquote, and what would you say to a youngster or someone that says, I don't know if I believe in a dollar. I don't want to work for money. Why do I need to work for money to achieve something, get any type of, exchange via the dollar or some type of paper currency that is a medium of exchange? Could you talk about that, please?
Okay, that's a very sophisticated subject. See, if we go back and realize that the concept of money is a complete concept of the working relationship between one and another one or more, and realize that everything is based on it. It's like the law of sowing and reaping. And it has varied so much over the centuries that it's not funny. At one time, salt was money. At one time, gold was money. At one time, silver was money. And you could go on and on and on. Different things. At one time, it was just your efforts were money. In other words, you did something for somebody, and they would do something for you in return, and that was the family aspect of money, and the number of ways that it has been used has little to no limitations to it. Now, when we look at the so-called American dollar, or if that's what you want to label it as, the currency system in our world, even the slave trade, at one time slaves were money. And we got to realize that every aspect of our world is based on the law of sowing and reaping. And sowing and reaping is what money is. You do something for something, and you receive something. And whether that is righteous or unrighteous is another story altogether. Because righteous deals with good for all concerned, and unrighteous deals with whether it's good for me or just me, or you or just you, or somebody else and just them, or a group of them, and not the whole, everybody that is concerned.
Right. Okay. This is a fired up conversation here, Kerry. What are your thoughts so far, Dr. Bay? Kerry?
I'm just listening with open ears, and an open heart.
All right, Dr. Bay. Now it's time to go ahead and do what we talked about. So, on your heart today, Dr. Bay, this is Spiritual Sundays, a word for the, target audience. What would you say, Dr. Bay? What words of wisdom would you say in less than 30 minutes you feel comfortable sharing that we can benefit from? Spiritual Sundays with Dr. Bay.
Well, one of the things that due to our programming, we do not want to hear the truth because we've been led to believe and not to know. If you know, you can demonstrate and show. If you believe, nobody has ever achieved or can demonstrate or show. Because if they could demonstrate and show, you would know. It's like I said all the time that may not know somebody can swim, but if you go to a swimming pool, you can see they can. Or a flying airplane, if you go to an airport, you see that they can. So we want you to know. And we've been programmed to operate from fear. And if we understand that belief and fear is the same energy, whether you know it or not, is a major aspect of what you do or don't do about it. And there are a lot of things that are affecting you daily and that you're doing daily that maybe you don't even know that they're affecting you or that you're doing them. I always think about this young lady that came to a class I was having in Chicago. And I was doing a class on the 17th law, which is one of my daddy's favorite laws. And he said it's the one that works more so than any of the other laws for everybody. And that's the law of have to. And I was telling them that you may or may not do what you want. You may or may not do what you like to do. You may not do what you feel like you need to do, but you always do what you feel like you have to do. And so there was this lady in the class, a young lady says to me, I don't never tell myself I have to do anything. And so the next week, when we were headed to the class, she parked on one side of the office and I parked on the other side. And when she saw me, she put this big grin on her face and ran up and grabbed me and hugged me. And she said, you remember what I said last week? I said, about what? She said that I said I never feel like I have to do, I never tell myself I have to do anything. I said, oh yeah, I remember you saying that. She said, guess what? I went home. And the next morning when I woke up, I heard me tell myself I have to get out of bed, and I got out of bed, and I had to get a drink of water, and I had to get the kids dressed, and I did. And I realized that I've been telling myself I have to. So I decided that what I was going to do today was make a record of how many times I say I have to. And she said 64 times in one day, I told myself I had to do something. And like you said, I didn't question whether I wanted to do it, whether I was going to do it at all. I just went ahead and did it because I told myself I had to do it. She said, that is incredible. And I didn't even realize I did it. I don't know how many people I've told about themselves. And they said, no, that ain't none of me. And the next time they see me, they say, wow, you know what? I got to know myself better and realize that the things you saying about me or was saying about me was accurate. We got to realize that we don't know that we don't know. And that's the reason I don't bring the fathers, the mothers, the sisters, the brothers, or the pastor, the preacher, the pope, the prophet. They don't know that they don't know. They've been programmed to believe and not to know. And if you know, you can demonstrate and show. That's the reason.
Dr. Bay, I got to ask you a quick question there. So how is
Yes.
it that someone is going to know that they could run into a bull at 6 years old, knock it off a cliff, and save their sister, crack their spine, not know it was cracked, live for multiple years, and this is them? How does someone know they can do this?
Um, Obviously, it was spontaneously. And I felt like I had to eat this bull. And I had to stop it from hitting my sister. And you got to realize that even in the bull situation, they've used this system to entertain people around the world. That the bull charges the color red. But we don't realize we do the same thing. More women get in arguments and fights when they got red lipstick on than they do when they don't.
Dr. Bay, how big was the bull?
More,
How big was the bull?
I don't remember.
Okay. Was it a
It
big
was
bull? Was it a baby bull?
it was probably a baby or in between somewhere.
Okay, okay. Now you have a general idea of that. Okay, so it started charging. So that means you saw it charging its feet up. Is that and did your spidey sense go off in your head?
I'm not sure what all went on exactly. I just know that I didn't question whether I should. I had somebody ask me later because of the challenges I've had. That if you had it, would you do it again? And knew that you were going to have the injury challenges that you had from it. I said, sure, I would.
Oh wow.
Because if I look at my sisters and my nieces and nephews, and what a wonderful group of people they are, certainly I would go through what I went through to do it again.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, were you dazed at all?
Was I what?
Was you dazed? Did you fall out when you hit it? Were you incapacitated for any period of time?
No.
So I have a question. So this seems to
Yes,
be
go
more
ahead.
like adrenaline based. And I can completely understand that. But how do, like, for the people listening, how does one go from the fear mindset to one of power and one of knowing? Like, how do they
Well,
see past that programming?
that is a beautiful, wonderful, powerful question. That is why I put together the system that I have. That I tell people that if they're interested in it, because I don't believe in something for nothing. People that do, they end up with just that, nothing. That there is a system, and that if they're interested in it, get in touch with Christian, and he can get you into the system.
Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that email is Christian at trustchristian.com. And we can definitely, we've actually had people come through and get on and want to get, get on the call. We got on the call with Dr. Bay privately because it is important to get private and do some things in a different manner. You don't want to do everything in the public, ladies and gentlemen. And that's so important that, people understand that. And so the conversation that we're having is something that if you met Dr. Bay on the street, hey, Dr. Bay, what would you share about the state of affairs of going from fear to knowing? Just going through the system, that's the only answer?
No, no.
Okay.
Yeah, going to the main thing is awareness, and awareness or intelligence, as you may call it, may be or not be fear. In other words, there are certain information that if you give out, and it could be very accurate and demonstratable, and they say that people would kill you about it. In other words, I was looking at the fact that pretty much every so-called inspiring person that we've had medically and otherwise, they claim was killed, like Dr. Sabi and Noble Kadar, and I could just go on and on. Because they had this information and were sharing it with the public, and it would cost millions and billions of dollars to the other people. They would lose for it, so they got rid of them. I look at that and from a private standpoint, and obviously the so-called Jews did too. That we got to realize that certain things and certain people act a certain way under certain conditions.
Okay.
And it is not necessarily fear, but intelligence. In other words, if you know fire will burn, why put and stick your hand in it? Stay away from it. And then don't put your hand in it or stay away from it from that standpoint. Do what makes sense. So That's what I'm about, doing what makes sense. If people want this information, they got to do what makes sense.
Reach out to Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that's Christian at trustchristian.com.
There are 92 degrees of knowledge that that we're talking about being trained in. 11 of them is the creative spirit. And each one of those 11 is a 18-week training course. So that's 198 weeks it takes you to go through it. There are 11 behaviors, same thing. There are 11 insights, the same thing. There are 22 master spiritual laws. So that comes to 396 weeks of training. So it's not a da-da thing, because I don't want you to bleed nothing. I want you to know something. I want you to be able to demonstrate and show something.
You gotta be able to shake something. You gotta be able to break something. I was just having a moment with you, Dr. Bay.
I know that's right.
I was having a moment. Dr. Bay. So, oh man, I mean, Dr. Bay, this is a very critical time to be able to be in a position of taking control of your thoughts.
Yes. Because the average person has been programmed, they don't even want to hear anything that's true.
So then what makes the truth the truth?
Accurate and demonstrable.
Okay, bam. See, got that question out the way for you guys. You don't have to ask that question again. You can replay it back again. It's accurate and demonstrable. And you know, we live in this universe, quote unquote, right now where they have the theories going around. It's a lot of theories.
Well, theories are all right, because theories cause people to do things. You know, a lot of things that they've been here all the time, but we just realized that you can do it. For an example, nowadays when you make a phone call, more than likely, if it's a business, you ain't gonna talk to no real person, but who you talk to, or the machine that you talk to, can basically understand what you're saying and answer your questions. You may do the same thing with your driving around. You ask a question about how to get there, and it'll even tell you when to make the next turn, and all that type of stuff, or even know when there's. And so there's a lot of things that are here that needs to be systematized and utilized. We don't understand them, so we utilize them anyway. And the more we get to understand what caused it and how they are, and it's just like with my best friend, female friend, she's had a serious health challenge. And I went to see her, and she could barely talk, barely open her eyes and all. And I called up a bunch of my friends and asked them if they would come on a mastermind call with me. And we visualized her talking and acting and all. The very next day, I was talking to her daughter, and she said she is 1,000 times better off. She's smiling, laughing, and talking. We got to realize that there are powers here. We just don't know they are, and how to systematize them and utilize them.
Okay, here
Uh,
we go. I was just thinking when you were speaking. So man currently has not been able to travel to the outer rims of like the universe, which is Pluto, Neptune, these other things, and in a very timely worldly fashion, if you know what I mean, the Earth years, and they haven't been able to do it at light speed, Doctor Bay. Do you think about could you comprehend how much systematizing of material and intelligence they would have to put together to get through the universe in a very short period of time, traveling back and forth to Earth and other parts of the universe and the planets?
Well, you're saying the universe, and you're just talking about our solar system.
Well, the
It's a
solar
fractional,
system.
fractional,
Okay, well, yeah.
fractional, fractional part of the universe. The universe is trillions of times larger than that. But um, sure, I know what they could do, and that's part of the training. We'll talk about how we got on this plane of existence, and that's part of the training that we do.
Okay. Okay, well, there you go. Curry, you got a question?
I was just gonna say, Dr. Bay, like, with knowing that there's a world of infinite possibilities, and there's a lot that the general public just does not know. I think we can agree that there's been a lot funneled in to keep the public from knowing these, I guess, clues and gems to operating in life and operating effectively and in our highest power. Um, would you say because there's been so much that goes into, I guess, keeping us in the dark, that, one of the main challenges is like understanding that we need to set ourselves apart in these types of private groups and then staying connected with these people? Is that like one of the main challenges?
Well, that's a good question, and I'm not sure of the total and right answer, but I do know that uh, the people that have had this knowledge, including now, the other four, they say there are four of us on Earth with this knowledge left, and I'm the only one willing to share it of the four. Now,
Why do you think
the
that
others
is?
want to pay me not to share it.
Why is that if, like, in your eyes, this is for humanity and especially our people's greater good?
Well, because the other people that got hold to it once before took over planet Earth with it, and they did a bunch of detrimental things instead of righteous things with it.
And from what I understand, by you sharing this knowledge is putting the power back in our hands to
That's what I
overturn
want to do.
what was done.
But seemingly nobody hardly wants the knowledge to do. So get in touch with Christian and let's make it come true.
Okay, so we're still here, Dr. Bay. It's one of those moments here where we're looking to grasp what does it take. Are we looking to be a baby Dr. Bay? Or are we looking to be a Superman and Superwoman within our own right?
Both.
Oh, wow. Alrighty. Dr. Bay, I'm always fascinated by transcending time and distance, so we could have some very interesting conversations about that. I know you've been familiar with the Silva method, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so could you comment on that if people have listened to that over
Well,
the internet?
I know where and how he got the knowledge and all.
Oh, wow, let's
He got
hear it.
it from, well, he wasn't the only one that got it, but there was a Dogon named R.H. Hunter that he got it from. But he weren't the only one. And whether silver mind control or whatever, there have been several people that have had aspects of this knowledge, but all 92 degrees is another story altogether.
See, Curry, so you asked that question, who else is out here giving it out? And this other guy,
Mhm.
R.H. Hunter, is he alive, Dr. Bay?
Nope.
Oh,
There used to
wow.
be three of us here. There used to be three of us here in the United States that had this knowledge. My father, R.H. Hunter, and myself. Now there's only me left.
Hold on, hold on.
My
So,
daddy,
R.H. Hunter, did he die of natural causes?
I really don't know.
Okay.
I know that my father lived to be 101.
Did he die of
I don't
natural
know
causes?
how. They say he did. I don't know.
Okay.
But that's
How?
an interesting story in and of itself. My father and mother meeting each other and their age differences.
Well, I mean, if we want to go there, we might have to go there, Kerry. We got some. How many more minutes we got, Dr. Bay? We can go ahead and go there. Dr. Bay, how many more minutes we got?
Yeah. Uh, let's give ourselves uh, another 12 minutes.
Alrighty, here we go. So you definitely can, share for the young audience and the listening audience of dating life in the 1930s or 1940s with your mom and your
Well,
father.
actually, my mother and father met in uh, what year was that? In 1932, I think it was. But anyway, both of them was age was 2 and 7. Mother was 27, and my daddy was 72. And they got together, and 10 kids came from it. And interestingly enough, my baby sister Clara looked more like my daddy than anybody. And she was born. He was 91 years old when she was born. So, but a lot of that happened back years ago. There was a lot of older, especially men, that was having children by younger.
Why do you think that
Uh,
was, Dr. Bay?
uh, I'm not sure of the whole thing. I've never looked into it
Just a
per
thought.
se,
Just a
but
thought. Just a thought.
you know, back especially during slavery time, I think of my great grandfather and the contributions that he made to civilization and how none of us, including myself, until about a year, maybe a year and a half ago, knew that he was my grandfather, even though we knew he existed. Some of us did. But uh, I think he was about 80 years old, somewhere in that neighborhood, when uh, he had my grandmother. And even though he did a lot and an awful lot in America, almost nobody knows about him. They know the name, but that's not who we're talking about originally. They even know much of the ancestral tree is mentioned in history, but his aspect of it and his name and all was not mentioned, and yet he was one of the main people in doing it. His name was. Do you remember his name?
Yes.
Christian.
Yes.
What's his name?
Uh, Cassius Clay. It's just no coincidence that even the Negro Cassius Clay had that name. It's such a powerful name.
Yeah,
If
well, and it came from the same person. It came from the same person, the same family line.
Okay. Oh, so he is related to you then. Okay, so you are related to Muhammad. Alrighty, alrighty, alrighty.
And his father before him was named Cassius Clay. And the grandfather before him was named Clay, uh, uh, Henry Clay. He was a politician in history and all. But they don't talk very much about Cassius Clay because Cassius Clay did some things for the Negro race, so to speak, that was hated by most people, and they tried to kill him and do every kind of thing to him for it. Did you look into that?
Yeah, definitely. I looked into it, Dr. Bay. All you guys had the slick hair. You all could comb your hair backwards and slick it. Put a little bit of oil on there and slick it backwards. Y'all come from that bloodline, Dr. Bay. So I've looked into it. But even like you say, the slave master, Cassius Clay, and him being an abolitionist, definitely familiar with that. So yeah, that was enlightening, quote unquote.
Yeah,
All right.
and
So please let's stick to this whole your mother and father and the age difference, and they had 10 children. It's like, Dr. Bay, how was your dad's health at 80 and 90, that in that stage of his life? How was his health?
unbelievable.
Okay, in a
You
good
know,
way.
I was, I when I was born, he was what? Um, I think it's 78 or 80, somewhere in that neighborhood. But guess what? He was still playing baseball when I was a little child,
What?
and he
What?
was in his 80s
He was
and still playing baseball. And that's why, you know, I'm in my 80s, and I could still play baseball if it wasn't for my numbness.
That's crazy, Dr. Bay. You probably could hit a home run right now if, like you say, that
Yes, well,
situation.
and I can prove this. You mentioned a home run. Uh, I hit 7 home runs in one game, and I got a bunch of people that can witness that I did it, and I was in my 70s.
I mean, when you say the word incredible, I guess there's no other word for that. I guess I don't know what a home run distance is. Do you know what that is? Be honest.
Depending on the ballpark.
Okay, so are you playing on the kiddie park or are you playing on the adult park?
No, I was playing on a adult park.
Yo, that's crazy. At 70?
Yes,
Okay, well,
if I got Thomas Hill George Hubbard or any of them on the line, they'll tell you.
okay, let's stick to this dating situation with your mother and father. I'm doing my best to get as much value out of this situation, Dr. Bay. So, okay, here we go. I was actually talking to Carrie about this, and so your parents left you at what age, and are you comfortable with sharing why they left or just how they left, or are you comfortable with that?
Oh yeah, I'll do that. My
Okay.
mother decided that my daddy, he had offices in 4 states. Yeah, he was a doctor. He had an office in Illinois. He had an office in Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, and Tennessee. And so, uh, mother felt like it was terrible that he had to go to all these offices. So they moved to the largest office that he had, which is here in Knoxville, Tennessee, where I am right now. And they left me and my baby brother at home. I was 14 and he was 12. And they ain't came back yet.
Uh, And so it's interesting, Dr. Bay, because people would say, well, you went to high school, did you get a job? I think you already had a business at 8 years
I
old,
went to
so
high school. As a matter of fact, me and my brother, and he used to brag about it. Never was missed a day in school, and was never late.
okay. Dr. Bay, I'm gonna just go ahead and end on a very, very great note. This is a gem that you shared with me, and I don't. Just let me know if you don't feel comfortable sharing. It's about when someone's speaking and to repeat what they say. You mind sharing that?
Okay, no, I don't mind sharing it. Uh, I, I, my dad told me this, and I told my kids this, and evidently he told other family members this because almost all of my family was almost straight A students. He told me that if you say what the teacher's saying at the time that they're saying it to yourself, you don't have to say it out loud. You will retain most of it. Where if you listening and analyzing, like that don't make no sense. Okay, I'm gonna remember that part. Then you're gonna miss part of what was said. But if you just say what they're saying while they're saying it, you'll be amazed at how much of it you will retain.
Dr. Bay, these are some powerful lessons that you're sharing with people, and that's something that I've done my best to implement into my life and has worked a lot. And thank you, Dr. Bay. Christian at trustchristian.com. It's Christian at trustchristian.com. Dr. Bay, we're going to come to you in a second for some parting words. Carrie, did you have any parting words very briefly?
I just want to also express appreciation, one for coming into this knowledge, and to Dr. Bay for your willingness to, share this with the people and allowing us the opportunity to expand our consciousness and awareness. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Bay, you're riding out on the cartwheel.
Well, to me, there are four things we need to learn how to be: wiser with accurate demonstrable knowledge, happier by understanding ourselves, everybody, and everything else, healthier by eating and consuming only the right nutrition, and wealthier by servicing the most people with righteous, accurate, demonstrable knowledge that can help perpetuate them for this lifetime and their family tree for the next lifetime and the next lifetime throughout the lifetimes.
That's
So
powerful.
get in touch with Chris.
Dr. Bay, somebody asked where you be at the next workshop in the chat. They asked where you be at the next workshop. And this is the wild part about it. Dr. Bay and Trust Christian, we've already done workshops together. We've had Dr. Bay come through before. We definitely have things going on. It's just, this is it, ladies and gentlemen. This is Trust Christian's hoorah. So we're just going to ride it off into the sunset privately. A lot of people have questioned that for a long time now. And Dr. Bay is somebody that, clearly Dr. Bay is private, knows very much so about trust, knows about estate, has had a international finance, I mean, excuse this, a national financial company, has had securities licenses, has had his company have multiple securities licenses, is very familiar, has come in contact with presidents. So, it's just one of those things now. Now is the time. You can feel free to reach out Christian at trustchristian.com. Y'all can hear Dr. Bay's heart. So, we've just been very cautious about this relationship for a very long time, but we don't need to protect the lion. You all, Dr. Bay's the lion. We don't need to protect him. So it's time to come out and see who's ready to play with Dr. Bay. Christian at trustchristian.com. Peace.